What is the heaviest thing in the world? Is it a mountain? Is it an anchor? No, the heaviest thing in the world is a blank page, or an empty canvas. Many of us carry a heavy burden called perfectionism. We think it means we have high standards. We think it means we are dedicated. But in reality, perfectionism is just a fancy mask for fear. We are afraid to make a mistake, so we wait. We plan, we overthink, and often we never start. Today's story takes place not in a temple, but in a dusty pottery workshop. It is the story of Elena, a brilliant student who wanted to create a masterpiece. And Master Silas, the man who taught her that perfect is the enemy of good. Elena was the top student in her art history class. She knew everything about theory. She could critique a Michelangelo sculpture and explain the brushstrokes of Van Gogh. But Elena had a secret problem. She had never actually created anything with her own hands. She was terrified of making something ugly. She enrolled in the legendary workshop of Master Silas. Silas was not a polite university professor. He was a craftsman. His hands were rough, his apron was covered in dried clay, and he rarely smiled. He didn't care about theory. He cared about action. On the first day of class, Master Silas did something strange. He divided the students into two groups. He pointed to the left side of the room. "You are Group A," he said. "Your grade depends on quality. You only have to produce one pot by the end of the semester, but it must be perfect." Elena was in Group A. She was relieved. "I can do this," she thought. "I will spend months planning, designing, and refining one single masterpiece." Then Silas pointed to the right side. "You are Group B," he grunted. "Your grade depends on quantity. I don't care what your pots look like. I will weigh them on a scale. If you produce 50 pounds of pots, you get an A. If you produce 40 pounds, you get a B." The students in Group B were confused. Grading art by weight. It sounded ridiculous, but they had no choice. The weeks passed. Elena, in the quality group, became obsessed. She read books about ancient pottery techniques. She drew hundreds of sketches, but she barely touched the clay. Every time she started, she saw a tiny flaw and destroyed it immediately. "It's not good enough yet," she told herself. "I need more preparation." Meanwhile, Group B was in chaos. They were throwing clay everywhere. Their first pots were crooked, ugly, and lumpy. But they didn't stop. They needed 50 pounds, so they kept making more. They didn't have time to criticize themselves. They were too busy working. Elena looked at them with pity. "They are just making garbage," she thought. "Wait until the master sees my one perfect creation." But Elena was about to learn a painful lesson about how the human brain actually learns. Finally, grading day arrived. Elena presented her work. It was ... unfinished. Because she had spent so much time theorizing and fearing mistakes, the clay had dried out. It was a mediocre, slightly cracked bowl. She felt ashamed. Then, Master Silas walked to Group B's table. Everyone expected to see a pile of junk, but they were shocked. Among the piles of pots, there were absolutely beautiful pieces. Elegant shapes, smooth surfaces, creative designs. They were far better than anything the quality group had produced. Silas picked up a beautiful vase from the quantity group and turned to Elena. "Do you know why this is beautiful?" he asked. "While you were busy theorizing about perfection, these students were busy failing. They made 100 ugly pots. But with every ugly pot, their hands learned. They learned how the clay moves. They learned from their mistakes. They didn't aim for perfection. They aimed for iteration." This story illustrates a biological fact. We don't learn by thinking, we learn by doing. When you repeat an action, Your brain builds a substance called myelin around your neurons. Myelin makes signals travel faster. The quality group didn't build any myelin because they didn't do the work. The quantity group built a highway in their brains through constant repetition. Elena realized that her perfectionism was not a strength. It was a cage. By trying to avoid failure, she had avoided success. Elena went back to the wheel. She stopped trying to make a masterpiece. She decided to make garbage, and in that mess, she finally found the joy of creation. What about you? Is there a project you haven't started because you are waiting for the perfect time? Or a language you don't speak because you are afraid of having a bad accent? Remember Master Silas. To make one perfect pot, you must first be willing to make 100 ugly ones. Your challenge today is simple. Go and do something badly. Write a bad paragraph. Draw a bad picture. Speak broken English. Just start. If you are ready to embrace the mess, type "I will start" in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories that will change the way you think. See you in the next lesson.